9, so please excuse my lateness. At this time, I'd like to call the meeting to order. The time is approximately a little after 9 a.m. The date is June 11th, 2025. I'd like to call the MetroPlan meeting to order. If you have an electronic device, please put it on silence. We're going to ask everyone to speak directly into the microphone, and you can understand when the microphone's on, you'll see the little red light. There'll be 2 opportunities to speak at this meeting. Public comments to be for agenda items be in the beginning, and for a general nature will be heard at the end of the meeting. Anyone would like to speak, please fill out the speaker's comments cards in the back of the room or online. And members of the public attending online, our staff will introduce you to if you raised your hand. At this time, I'd like to ask Commissioner Christine Moore to lead us in the pledge. Commissioner?
Right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner. At last month's meeting, we had a presentation from Dale Allen from the Florida Greenways and Trails Foundation. He presented a regional concept for a trail from Lake Monroe in Seminole all the way through Orange and Osceola County down to Okeechobee County, approximately about 150 miles. Dale's asked us for resolutions to support so that in the future we can get this unfunded project potentially funded. So if you have not done a resolution of support from your county or your city, please do so. And that way we can put it on the agenda. I don't think that we should do that here regionally if we don't have full support. So I've not asked our staff where we are with that, but if you haven't done it, please do that. This morning, the agenda includes 3 very important presentations. The preview of the Transportation Improvement Program and the priority project list based on the final outcome of the legislative session and the proposed budget and what we're going to see here today and asked to adopt next month. Maybe a little different. So we're going to be determining that as we move forward. So please be patient. While the information we're going to be getting late, our staff will be giving us that information and hopefully there'll be no changes. It's important that we understand the dynamic nature of the work and the program this year. The third presentation of importance that we're going to be seeing is going to be done with the long-range transportation plan. We'll be getting all those in December. Today will be the final meeting from one of our board members, Mayor Dallas. Mayor?
Oh, that's fine.
He's rolling off of the board here. He'll still be involved with MetroPlan. The mayor has been involved with MetroPlan for a number of years. In the last 3 years, I believe, Mayor, you've only missed 1 meeting. A lot to be said for that. Anything you'd like to add, Mayor?
It's been a pleasure and keep going. This is, I never thought I'd enjoy transportation as much as I have. So keep at it.
Thank you, Mayor. Your leadership is noticed, and I want to thank you for your hard work and dedication to the region. So thank you, Mayor. At next meeting, the MAC will present a new individual. It'll be Commissioner Jordan Smith from the city of Lake Mary. At this time, we'll hear from our staff for a safety moment. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to staff.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Laura Bout with MetroPlan Orlando. I'm filling in for Mike today with our safety moment. So we just wrapped Motorcycle Safety Month in May nationally, and so we're going to focus on motorcycle safety for this month. We have covered motorcycle safety in the past, but wanted to take a bit of a different spin on it this time. We see about 200 fatal or serious injury crashes in our region annually. This represents about an 11% drop from our pre-COVID levels, which is good. But when we look at autos, we see that we've seen a similar drop of 31% over that same period. So we are lagging for our motorcycle crashes. While motorcycles make up about 3% of vehicles on our roadway, we see about 15% of our fatal and serious injuries coming from motorcycle crashes. One key thing that we see about motorcycles is that experience is of extreme importance. This is true with any vehicle, of course, with those less experienced riders having higher risk for crashes, but that's especially true for motorcyclists and maybe not surprising given the characteristics of riding on a motorcycle and the fact that they are vulnerable road users. Fortunately, here in our region, we do have a motorcycle safety course that's available and put on through our Osceola Sheriff's Office called the SMART Motorcycle Safety Course. This is a training that's supplemental to that required motorcycle endorsement course and includes some of the skills that are taught to our motor units in law enforcement. So attendees get a much better grounding in motorcycle handling and safety. So the website for finding out more information about that course is ridesmartflorida.com. So if you know anyone who wants to brush up on their motorcycle skills, please point them in that direction. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions you may have this time.
Any questions from the board? Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
This time move to the executive director, Gary.
Good morning, Chairman Delary and board members. This morning we have Commissioner Constantine is joining us virtually. He's out of town this morning, so he is joining us virtually. We also have Vice Mayor Edie, also virtual, but she is here representing the city of Kissimmee in place of Mayor Espinoza. So thank you for joining us. Today I want to introduce a new staff member to the board. On our communications team. Giselle Valadez is the new communication specialist for community outreach. She'll be focusing on public engagement and coordinating with regional partners, and she will lead many of our outreach efforts. She recently relocated to Orlando from Phoenix. She's excited to be here, and we're even more excited to have her on the team. Work is underway on the next federal transportation bill. I've talked to several of you about this, and groups that we're involved with nationally, the National Association of Regional Councils, the Association of MPOs, have been working on this actually since the IIJA bill was passed. We wanted to get in front of it rather than react to it. So over the past couple of weeks, I've met with staff members from some of our federal representatives in preparation for that. I've included a couple of items in your agendas this morning under the information items, and those include the AMPO, the Association of MPOs proposal to Congress, as well as a letter from the Lot Coalition, which represents the MPOs, local governments throughout the country. So take a look at that, and I have some talking points if any of you care to have those in hand when you meet with representatives. But the intent of both of those organizations and of the two letters there is really to benefit MPOs and local governments throughout the country. So I just draw your attention to that. We've talked in the past about a new Safe Streets and Roads for All grant that we received. It's still, while we receive word from time to time that it's about to be released, it still has not been released, but it should be happening soon. Your supplemental folders this morning include a couple of items. First is an announcement of the International Drive pedestrian overpass at Sand Lake Road. Orange County is having a public hearing on that at their commission chambers on June 17th. And then there's also the District 5 Compass newsletter included. This morning, we will be hearing, last month we heard from the Kissimmee Airport. This morning, we'll be hearing from the Sanford Airport. Stephen Smith has agreed to provide that presentation. The DOT will not have a report on the agenda this morning. Neither Secretary Tyler nor Jim Strohs were available for this morning's meeting. Chairman Delary, that completes my announcements, and there are no other comments or changes to the agenda.
Just for clarification purposes, you mentioned National Council of Regional NARC. Commissioner Constantine is representing us there, and he's in Seattle as we speak.
Yes, and he's online.
I'm sure he's online, but I just want
Yeah.
everybody to know where he's at.
Yeah.
He's not here presently.
Yeah.
And it's a national board that he represents, not just us, but a good part of the state of Florida, if not the entire state and part of Georgia, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just want to make that. Any questions
Yeah, I have
for
one.
Gary? Commissioner?
Gary, you mentioned the second tranche of money for the Safe Streets program. Could you just reiterate for my memory what that will fund?
Our second grant is going to further some of the planning work that we did. You know, under the first grant, we did the 23 safety action plans. And this grant is, I think it's a $2.1 million grant to dig a little further into some of those planning projects. I don't have in memory which those might be, but it's further study.
Any other questions for Gary? Thank you, sir. Now we'll go to the other reports. As we said earlier, we're going to be going to a couple of different airports. Today, we're going to hear from the Orlando Sanford Airport and Stephen Smith.
Yeah, we put together a video presentation, basically giving everybody an outline of the history of the airport from the beginning to where we are today. And hopefully everybody enjoys it. And if they have any questions after the presentation, please.
In November of 1942, the U.S. Navy needed a base to train their bomber pilots, and Sanford was there to answer the call. During peak wartime, there were 300 officers, 1,400 enlisted men, and 150 waves stationed here, boosting local businesses. And that is when the economic driver that is the Orlando Sanford International Airport was born. 83 years later, passengers check in under a restored PV-1 Ventura bomber, the largest aircraft to be exhibited in an airport terminal in the world. SFB welcomed 2.9 million passengers in 2024, and we're on the same pace for this year. There is no major metropolitan market without a secondary airport, and with good reason. Without SFB, millions of travelers would never make it to our local tourist attractions. They fly in direct on Allegiant Air from more than 69 destinations. This year, we celebrate 20 years with Allegiant, and as the carrier's largest hub, new routes are added every year. And scheduled international service will return to SFB in October with the launch of Aerojet's direct flight to the paradise destination, Punta Cana, Dominican Republic. But new airline partners and the travelers they bring are only half the story. At SFB, our purpose is to create opportunity, not just for connections, but for prosperity. The addition of 100,000 passengers can lead to 100 on-site jobs. Every $100 in revenue generates $138 in our local economy. We also know that investing in our airport is a win-win for passengers and the region. Every $1 million spent on infrastructure equals an additional $1.5 million in regional GDP. This year saw the completion of an overhaul of our concessions. Every food and beverage outlet is refreshed, redesigned with local flavor. The Sanford Tap, Zaza Cuban Cafe, Nature's Table, and famous Sanford favorite, Hollerbach's German restaurant. Brew Landing was designed with Sanford's waterfront in mind. By the end of this year, more local inspiration will be seen in the $3.5 million renovation of our retail spaces, including the St. John's River Market and 1877 & Company, named after the year Sanford was founded. And in the near future, a playground featuring native animals in their family-friendly, foam-figured Florida habitat. In the landscape of transportation, SFB has invested over $100 million in the past 10 years to be able to offer a different travel opportunity, low-cost value, and a simpler, faster, better experience. But the other half of the story is outside the commercial terminal. SFB is the 85th busiest airport in the nation and 36th busiest in the country for takeoffs and landings, thanks to a robust general aviation clientele and first-class flight schools. And it is from above where you can see the next horizon for financial growth. Land. More than 530 acres ready for development and redevelopment, some of the last green space in Seminole County. This is where aviation MROs are already thriving, and we have room for many more businesses. Businesses that will benefit from an unparalleled location. True intermodality, direct connections from the air to all major highways, a local port, and the only rail line adjacent to an airport in Florida. one of the state's largest foreign trade zones, and strong surrounding residential and commercial development makes SFB an attractive opportunity for companies. FDOT calculates that the Orlando Sanford International Airport already has a $3.5 billion overall impact on Florida's economy. As we grow and prosper, so will our entire region.
Thank you, Stephen. Any questions?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
This just gives you an idea of the terminal expansion that prior to we did a $80 million expansion on the terminal. That gives you a before and after picture on that. And moving forward. This just gives you an idea of what the money we've spent basically on the terminal interior through the renovations that you saw in the film for the retail, food and beverage, and what we're doing throughout the terminal. It's just a constant upgrade to keep things modernized for the flying public. We're in the process of rehabbing 9 left. We're working on our runways right now. We're doing a resurfacing project on our main runway. We're also looking at adding a taxiway to the north for future airside development. So that's another project that we're working on at this point. And this gives you an idea of some of the parcels of property that we have available for development. We have several along the Lake Mary corridor, and then we have a lot of we still have a lot of airside space to go. And the FAA, we sort that out differently for airside and retail. So it's just constant opportunity. If you know, making sure everybody is aware of how much development, 550 acres of available land right now for development.
Great.
And this is we have a this is some of the things that are going on, and we have some future development. UCF is talking about coming in with a couple of projects and taking over an existing building. Siemens is looking to come over to the airport at some point, and this is just things that we're doing that moving forward. And this is most important, 417 extended to the Lake Mary, really to the Lake Mary corridor. We're trying to bypass, as Bob and everybody's aware, we're trying to get the traffic off Lake Mary Boulevard and get it onto the 417. Right now, it's very it's convoluted how you got to get to Ronald Reagan. This would make it a lot easier on everybody, and it would take some of the pressure off the Lake Mary corridor. And if anybody has any questions, I'll see if I can answer them.
Questions from the board? Steve, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Exciting stuff.
This time we'll go to the roll call and confirmation of quorum.
Arrington,
Here.
Bates,
Here.
Constantine, Gomez Cordero, Delari,
Here.
Demmings, Dyer,
Here.
Dowless,
Here.
Edie for Espinosa,
Here.
Gilbert, Grebe,
Here.
Janer,
Here.
Moore,
Here.
Nelson,
Here.
Scott, Simrad, Smith, Ortiz, Uribe, Good for Wise Hire,
Here.
Wilson,
Here.
Woodruff.
Here.
Mr. Chair, that concludes the roll call, and we do have a quorum.
Thank you.
Commissioner
Time to move on to
Delory, Commissioner Delory, I just wanted everyone to know that I am here. Sorry, I missed the roll call. Couldn't get the unmute, but I am here.
And Commissioner Constantine, we know it's early in Seattle, so thank you for getting up. And no pun intended, but it is noted that you're online. At this time, move on to committee reports, the
Mr.
municipal
Philip.
advisory.
Chair
Sure.
Delari, real quick, Virginia just informed me that Commissioner Uribe is here. She's just parking. So just an FYI.
Okay. All right, thank you. This time, move on to committee reports, municipal advisory board. Mayor Dallas, this will be your last report to us.
All right, the Municipal Advisory Committee met on June 5th. MAC approved our May 8th meeting minutes. We approved the amendments to the fiscal year 24-25 and 28-29 TIP. We approved minor changes to the MAC bylaw, specifically in regards to the roster. MAC also approved a chair and vice chair for the 25 through 27 term. The chair will be Commissioner Jordan Smith from Lake Mary. Our vice chair will be Commissioner Sal Ramos from the town of Oakland. MAC received 3 presentations. The first presentation is Draft Transportation Improvement Program, fiscal year 25-26 through 29-30. We also received a presentation on the draft prioritized project list. Last, we received a status update on the 2050 MTP. MAC meets next on June 26th, and that concludes my report.
Thank you. Any questions for the mayor?
Come on, Mac's interesting.
Yes, we know it's very interesting and we're going to miss you.
Yeah.
So, thank you. At this time, seeing no questions, move on to the Community Advisory Committee.
Good morning, Chair and members of the board. I am Nelisa Council representing the Community Advisory Committee. At its May 28th meeting, the CAC recommended approval of the Transportation Improvement Program amendment that is on the agenda today. We welcome 2 more new members to the committee. The committee heard presentations on the status of the MetroPlan Transportation Plan and received previews of the draft Transportation Improvement Plan and prioritized project list. Committee members had questions about how the funding preferences expressed at the April 9th MTP Summit would be used in shaping future transportation plans. Members urged more attention to the transit funding and safety and questioned why road widening continues to receive as much funding as it does. The next regular CAC meeting will be on June 25th, 2025. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, thank you very much. We'll move on. Technical Advisory Committee.
Good morning, Chair and board members. The Technical Advisory Committee met a few weeks ago on May 30th. TAC met in person with the physical quorum present. Key action items of which unanimously approved or recommended for your consideration included the approval of the April 25th, 2025 TAC meeting minutes, amendments to the Transportation Improvement Program for fiscal years 2025 to 2029. We also received 3 comprehensive presentations. The preview of the Transportation Improvement Program for fiscal years 2026 to 2030, a review of the 2025 prioritized project list, and a status update on the MTP. There were no TAC-only presentations, and we received no public comments. Our next meeting is June 27th, 2025. This concludes my report, and thank you all.
Thank you. Any questions from the board for the Technical Advisory Committee? Any questions? Seeing none, we'll move on. Now move to the Transportation System Management and Operation Advisory Committee.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. The Transportation System Management and Operations TSMO Advisory Committee met on May 30th, 2025. TSMO Vice Chairman Christina Colon from Osceola County chaired the meeting in my absence. 2 items were approved at the meeting. The first item was the minutes for the April 25th meeting. The second item was MetroPlan Orlando's staff request to amend the fiscal year 2025-2029 TIP to include the Complete Streets project on Edgewater Drive, Segment A from Lakeview Street to Lake Adair Boulevard. We had 2 presentations. Eric Gordon, Florida Turnpike Enterprise, gave a presentation on Interstate for Florida's Regional Advanced Mobility Elements Frame Project. It included an invitation for TSMO members to participate or coordinate the use of onboard units in agency vehicles to provide feedback on the benefits of the project. The other presentation was on implementing solutions from transportation research and evaluation of emerging technologies, iStreet, by Dr. Prudevi Manjanaha, University of Florida Transportation Institute. Dr. Manjunaha presentation highlighted the goals of the iStreet program, lessons learned from past projects and ongoing projects that may be of interest to TISMO in the future. That concludes my report, Mr. Chairman.
I'm glad you tried to pronounce his name because I know I would do even worse job. I'm bad at names, so well done.
Thank
I
you.
refer to him as Dr. M as well. So any questions for the advisory committee? Anyone? Phenomenal job. Thank you. Excuse me?
I'd like to hear his name again.
It's, we can send it to you phonetically, and so you can practice on your own, okay? Dr. M does a great job. Seeing no questions for the Transportation System Management and Operation Committee, we're going to move on. I'd like to go to Commissioner Reby. She serves on the FDOT 2055 Transportation Steering Committee that met on June 4th. Commissioner, can you give us an update?
Oh, good morning. I apologize. My flight from Seattle was delayed this morning, so I didn't land until 7:40 a.m. So, but yes, we had our second to the last FDOT steering committee meeting on June 4th. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
And it was fantastic. We met in Punta Gorda. We actually have a draft of the plan that is amazing. They are looking for feedback. So if anybody is interested in looking at the draft that we've put together, we've been working on this for about 15 months. Committee will meet one more time in October, and the final draft will come out in November of this year is the anticipated date. It is an update on what's fantastic is SpaceX, tracks, ports, airports, roads, everything, even environmental is a part of this. And we've worked diligently to make sure our seniors, family, and our disability community is also included in this report as we look at the future of Florida and how we will move people from one segment to another. So it was wonderful, and it is we're almost complete. The vision and the mission really does align with what all of our sectors across the state are doing. As I just said, I returned from the NARC conference, National Association of Regional Councils, from Seattle this morning. I've been there since Sunday, and I took the red eye at 11 o'clock last night and arrived this morning at 7:40. And it was great because we also got to visualize and see what other major cities and towns from Boston, Ohio, Michigan, Seattle, California, which is quite different. California is on its own. New York and Massachusetts and all of these great states in Atlanta and Georgia, and how they're moving people, what the future looks like, how they're looking. What's great is that housing and transportation and jobs combined. So it's no longer just housing, just transportation, just movement. And we got a very, very intensive research into AI and what that will also be imposing in the future of how things happen. But I do want to say that one of the biggest things that stood out is every housing project across this country is being supported by connecting transportation to that housing. So some sort of infill, some sort of connectivity, all of those. Something really great that I just want to say Boston does, instead of sticking them in certain areas, they're actually being very inclusive, where a lot of projects, we met the mayor, one of the deputy mayors of Seattle, they're making every housing unit give 10% of their units to affordable or attainable housing. But the average household price in Seattle is $1.2 million for a basic home of 1,600 square feet. But so it's insane. And one of the biggest problems everyone's having too is we're running out of space. So just thought that I would kind of fill in on that's happening. But anybody who's interested in knowing any more of the FTP 2055 draft for the steering committee, please see me. I'd love to share that draft with anyone that's interested to just kind of know what we're looking at, where we're going, and any insight. Thank you, Chair. And by the way, I was with Commissioner Constantine, and he was on the phone with you last night at 11 o'clock at night.
Yes, he was. Just for clarification purposes, I've been a member of NARC for many years. I'm the past chair of NARC. And there's a couple of members there that haven't seen me in a while, so they wanted Lee Constantine to call me up to say hello. That's what the phone call is about. The phone is available. In fact, it was entertaining to hear from old friends. But anyway, any questions for the commissioner? Commissioner, I have one question. You mentioned AI is involved. Is there anything you'd like to add to that, how it's being involved?
The uncertainty of what it holds and security measures and so forth that are out there. And we had some amazing professors and some CEOs from companies who have developed these AR. And they're also trying to interact with government to see how they can make it more efficient. But the concern is there's no cap on it. Whatever you feed it is where it goes. And there's nothing protected of whatever you say. They say, even if you ask AI, hey, what should I wear today? That becomes public. And it was a little frightening actually, because the biggest concern is they're not ready to handle security protection moving forward with AI. But it is taking a major role, and it's basically, if you're not at the table, you're really, really missing out on how that's becoming bigger than a lot of things. It was a very frightening presentation, if I can just say, because it's happening. It's happening. But thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, seeing none, we'll move on. Now it's public comments for the agenda item. Anyone in person or virtual, if you are in person, anything that's on the agenda. Do we have any requests, Lisa?
We do not have any hands raised online, and I have not received any comments to speak.
Okay, seeing none, we'll move on from public comments and we'll go to the consent agenda.
Move to approve, Gina. Second more.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Any questions to the motion? Seeing none, we'll call the question. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed, like sign. Motion passes. Thank you. Now move on to action item, which is the approval of the FY 2025 and 2029-2030 TIP from staff will present this to us.
Good morning, Chairman and board members. This morning, we have one tip amendment for you. In addition, information on this amendment is located in section 2 of your agenda packets. This morning's amendment is for the Edgewater Drive Complete Street Project, which is an existing project in the tip that is being segmented for construction. The amendment will add a -2 phase from Lakeview Street to Adair Boulevard and would move some of the SU and local funds from the -1 phase to the -2 phase for construction in fiscal year 2025. This amendment does not add any additional funding to the project. As I mentioned earlier, you have some additional information on this amendment located in section 2 of your agendas. With that being said, if there are any questions, if not, we'll ask for your recommendation of approval. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion to recommend approval. We have a second from Aribi. Any other questions for the motion? Seeing none, we'll call the question. It's a roll call vote. Lisa?
Arrington,
Aye.
Bates, Constantine, Gomez Cordero,
Aye.
Delari,
Aye.
Dyer,
Yes.
Dowlis,
Aye.
Edie for Espinosa,
Aye.
Gilbert,
Aye.
Reed, Janer,
Aye.
Moore,
Aye.
Nelson,
Yes.
Smith, Uribe. Good for Wise Hire, Wilson,
Yes.
Woodruff.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
Thank you. Now move on to informational items for acknowledgement. Is there a motion to accept the information for acknowledgement?
Second more.
Okay, we have a motion second. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll call the question. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion passes. Thank you. We'll now move on to other businesses and presentations. The first one is for the preview of the 2025, 2026, 2029, and 2030 Transportation Improvement Program, TIP. We'll hear from staff.
Morning again. This morning, I'll be presenting a preview of the fiscal year 2026 to fiscal year 2030 Transportation Improvement Program, also known as the TIP. In your agenda package, you'll find a link to a draft document for your review. And I'll be coming back during the June-July board and committee cycle with the TIP as an action item. The purpose of the tip is to identify all federal and state funded transportation projects in our region over the next 5 years. TIP also includes partner funded projects and Central Florida Expressway projects for informational purposes. And the tip is updated annually and is consistent with the adopted prioritized project list, which was adopted in July of 2024. The tip is broken down into several sections that are identified on the right side of the screen. On the left side of the screen, you can see the different project categories within the tip. Each project category has its own section within the tip and its own project list. The tip also includes an abbreviation and acronyms guide, as well as a systems performance report. And within the tip this year, we have a total of 383 projects with approximately 7.5 billion in funding. And over the course of my presentation, I'm going to highlight some of these projects. Start off with the National Highway System, which includes projects on the Interstate Highway System, Strategic Intermodal System, and National Highway Freight Network. Within our region, this mainly consists of projects on I-4. In the tip, we have 23 projects on I-4 with 2.7 billion in funding, and a few projects that we would like to highlight. First, two of the Moving Florida Forward projects. One that would be adding additional lanes on I-4 from west of State Road 536 to west of State Road 435, which is Kirkman Road. In Osceola County, we have another project that will be adding lanes. That's on I-4 from west of County Road 532 to east of County Road 522. And then finally, in Seminole County, we have a project that will be adding lanes on I-4 from 1 mile east of State Road 434 to east of US 1792. And for more information on I-4 projects, please visit FDOT's website, movingi4forward.com. Now we'll highlight some truck parking projects. Truck parking is a high priority in the MetroPlan Orlando region. And within the tip, we have 5 projects with approximately 105 million in funding. The few of these projects, in Orange County, we have the Sand Lake Road site. In Osceola County, we have a site on Osceola Polk Line Road. Also in Osceola County, the Turnpike has plans for a truck parking location at the Canoe Creek Service Plaza. And then in Seminole County, we have a truck parking site in Sanford. Next, we have projects on the state highway system. In the tip, we have a total of 66 projects with approximately 723 million in funding. And a few of these projects we're going to highlight on State Road 50, which is in East Orange County. We have 2 projects that will add lanes and rehab the pavement. First is on State Road 50 from East Bull Cheney Highway to Chuliota Road. And the second is from Chuliota Road to State Road 520. Also in the Kissimmee area, we have an intersection improvement project at John Young Parkway and Pleasant Hill Road. And then finally in Seminole County, we have a project on State Road 434 that'll be adding several roundabouts from west of Jetta Point to south of Artesia Street. Next, we'll move on to complete streets projects. Complete streets projects include projects off of the state highway system that improve safety, reliability, and accessibility for all users. Within the tip, we have 7 MetroPlan Orlando funded projects with approximately 25 million in Transportation Management Agency or TMA funding. And there's also an additional 17.8 million in local and congressional discretionary funding on these projects. A few projects that we're going to highlight in the Audubon Park, Baldwin Park area of Orlando. We have the Virginia Drive, Forest Avenue, Corinne Drive Complete Street project from State Road 527 to Bennett Road. We also have in Castleberry, the Winter Park Drive Phase 1 from Marigold Road to Seminole Boulevard. And in Kissimmee, we have the Connect Kissimmee Complete Streets project Phase 2. Next, we have the Transportation Systems Management and Operations, or TSMO projects. These projects use technology to improve safety and travel time reliability off of the state highway system. Within the tip, we have 14 MetroPlan Orlando funded projects, approximately 26 million in TMA funding. There's also an additional 17 million in local funds. A few projects we're going to highlight. We have the Orlando Citywide Pedestrian Traffic Signals. We have the John Young Parkway ITS from Hunter Creek Boulevard to State Road 482, which is Sand Lake Road. And also in Orlando, we have the Carrier Drive, Mandarin Drive TSMO bundle. And then in Osceola County, we have an arterial traffic management system on Boggy Creek Road from Simpson Road to Narcoozy Road. Next, we have the bicycle and pedestrian projects, which consist of standalone bicycle and pedestrian projects. The TIP has 11 MetroPlan Orlando funded projects, approximately 37.5 million in TMA funding. There's also an additional 30.8 million in local funding on these projects. A few projects in Pine Hills. We have the Pine Hills Trail Phase 2, which is from north of Bonnie Brae Circle to Clarkona Ocoee Road. We also have 4 segments of the Shingle Creek Trail. In Orange County, we have the Kirkman Trail section, which is from Old Winter Garden Road to Raleigh Street. In Kissimmee, we have the South Phase 2B, which is the Yates connector. In Kissimmee, we also have the North Phase 2C, which is the County Line connector. And then in Orange County, we have Phase 4, which is from Alhambra Drive to Old Winter Garden Road. Additionally, we also have a couple of sidewalk bundles in the TIP, including the Orlando Sidewalk App bundle. So Safe Routes to School includes sidewalk projects near public schools. Within the TIP, we have 3 Safe Routes to School projects, approximately 1.9 million in state funding. There's also an additional 846,000 in TMA funding and approximately 1.3 million in local funds on these projects. In Kissimmee, we have the Phase 2 of the Sidewalk App project at Deerwood Elementary School. In St. Cloud, we have Phase 1 of the Sidewalk App project at Hickory Tree Elementary School. Then in Kissimmee, we also have Phase 2 of a Sidewalk App project at Boggy Creek Elementary and Parkway Middle School. So transit and commuter rail are 2 separate sections in the TIP. The transit and transportation disadvantage section of the TIP includes operations and capital for links, and the TIP includes approximately 380 million in funding in this section. And the commuter rail section of the TIP includes Sunrail projects, and this section has approximately 178 million in funding. So as you can see, over the next 5 years, we have a lot going on in the region. We have a total of 271 federal, state, and turnpike funded projects in the TIP, approximately 5.5 billion in funding. And this does not include the 1.3 billion in local funds that our partner agencies contribute to projects. This also does not include the partner funded projects, which were submitted to the TIP for informational purposes only. And the pie chart on the screen breaks this down, this funding down by category for the 10 sections of the TIP. It should be noted that the I-4 funding, which makes up approximately 49% of the pie chart, includes the $2 billion in discretionary funding that we received as part of the governor's Moving Florida Forward initiative. Within the TIP, we also have a total of 39 projects that MetroPlan Orlando funds using our TMA funds. It comes out to approximately 145 million over the next 5 years. And this does not include the 31 million in TMA funding that we added to 3 state highway system projects in order to help the state balance their work program. And that was an amendment that we approved earlier this year. And this table breaks down by project type, including complete streets, bicycle and pedestrian, TISMO, and transit capital. This year, we have multiple ways for the public to participate at their convenience. You can watch this year's TIP video, which explains ways to explore its content and participate in the planning process. And this video is located on our YouTube channel. Additionally, you can join in person or virtually at any of our upcoming board or committee meetings, and we'll have the opportunity to leave a public comment. You can also attend our in-person open house at the Seminole County Public Library in Oviedo on June 17th from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. We've also already hosted 2 Ask a Planner virtual TIP sessions, and we'll have another one coming up at the end of the month. And the date for that is June 30th from noon to 1 o'clock. Finally, you can use the TIP online viewer to navigate and provide comments as well. As you may remember, last year we rolled out the TIP online viewer as an interactive way for everyone to view the document. While this program is pretty user-friendly, we do understand that there is a learning curve. So this year we put out a short 2-minute long video that I narrated and walked through how to navigate through the TIP online viewer, select projects, and leave a public comment. And this is located on our YouTube channel as well as on our TIP channel, and the link to that is at the bottom of the screen. So a few next steps over the next few weeks. FDOT has just kind of wrapped up their review, and we're still receiving some feedback from agency partners. and we'll be incorporating that into the tip. As I mentioned, we also have several tip public outreach events coming up. And once all that is done, we'll be preparing the final document for board approval. And just one reminder, any agency partner comments were requested to be submitted by June 9th. So if you have a comment that you haven't already left for us, please get it in as soon as possible. That's going to conclude my presentation on the fiscal year 2026 to fiscal year 2030 tip. I'd like to open up the floor for any questions or comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions from the board? Commissioner?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In regards to the parking lot or the truck parking in Osceola County, which is on County Line Road, I just want to bring up some concerns that CFX and Osceola County both have about that. The intersection, and Will, you can correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, the intersection of 429 and Point Santa Parkway of the I-4 Ultimate is not a complete intersection and does not have on-ramps from west moving east from Tampa. And also, I don't believe the 429 exits east or west towards Tampa as well. And the reason I bring this up, because if we're going to be building a truck parking lot, it would only make sense for the truck parking lot to be close to a major arterial high-speed roadway, which would be the Parkway or I-4. If those ramps are not included in that overall design, we are going to be forcing truck traffic from Tampa to get off onto a 4-lane community road, which will be being improved over the next couple of years as we speak, and will basically be forcing that roadway to fail by having that truck parking there. So unless we fix the intersection of 429 Point Santa Parkway, I don't think it behooves us to create a truck parking site in the middle of a community that doesn't have full access to trucks being able to get there. So I just want to raise that concern. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other comments? The only thing I'd like to add, Commissioner, I appreciate your concerns, but those concerns are shared in other locations as well. And there's a lot of the projects have been done in phases, and I'm sure that you meet with DOT, they may be able to help you with the different phases of those projects. So, any other questions before we move on? Thank you. This time, move on to the additional information of the PPL and the, update of the 2050 MPT. I have staff present.
Good morning, Chair. My name is Slade Downs. I'll be giving you a rundown of our preview to the prioritized project list for 2025. So a bit of background on the PPL process. This is an annual update. Just like the TIP update, we update the PPL every year. And how that works within our kind of core products scheme is you have the Metropolitan Transportation Plan, which is our 25-year plan, where we've really kind of fleshed out all of the research for the next 25 years. And then we have the TIP, Transportation Improvement Program, which Jason just spoke on. And of course, that is the upcoming 5 years of project phases that have received funding. The PPL, Prioritized Project List, is kind of a bridge between the two. So it's the 10 years following the TIP. It's projects and project phases that have not yet received funding, but based on forecasts and estimates, what we anticipate to fund in that time. And it's kind of the on-deck circle so that people, our municipalities can get their ducks in a row, make sure we have staff resources, everything is in line so that when that money becomes available, you can hit the ground running, get those projects going. So a bit about the approach and considerations taken in the prioritized project list update. We stay consistent with the MTP, like I was just mentioning, where we've already established those needs, those cost feasibilities, the cost forecast, but the availability of funds and project readiness for each project phase is where we really get into the action of the PPL. It is consistent with the policy and direction that you all as the board have set as far as the prioritization process goes. You can take a look at the formulas and the real nuts and bolts of that prioritization in Appendix B of the document. But the long and short of it is that we have these goals and projects prioritized to advance high-quality projects to improve the transportation network across the region. So this chart is pulled straight from the MTP. It is basically all of the different funding programs and project lists that are within the prioritized project list document itself. I'll be going over each of these in the next couple slides very quickly, but I encourage you to take a look at the document itself. There's a kind of one-sheet summary for each of these programs. If you'd like to learn more about their funding sources, eligibility, kind of all of that, that is in the document itself. So the first prioritized list I'm going to speak on is the Interstate Highways and Strategic Intermodal System list. Definitely our top priority is building out that final phases of the Moving Florida Forward project in our region, as well as those truck parking sites to play into our regional freight goals. You can find the one-sheet summary of this program on page 12 and the full list starting on page 25. Next, we have our state highway systems list. These are the key priorities for our state roads throughout the region. And you can find more on this program on page 13 and the full list starting on page 28. Next, we have our complete streets project list. This and the next few lists I'm going to speak on are funded with urban area funds, meaning that they are at the discretion of the policy set by you all, the board. These projects are kind of what we see as feasible, bridging us to the beginning of the 2050 MTP, where all of these lists will be refreshed. And I'm sure Taylor will be able to tell you a bit more about that in a second. You can find more on the complete streets list on page 15, and then the full list starting on page 37. Next, we have our Transportation Systems Management and Operations, our TSMO project list. Kind of our transportation technologies project lists. You can find out more on this program on page 17, and then the full list starting on page 39. And here we have our pedestrian and bicycle infrastructure projects. Just as it sounds, these are our priorities for our pedestrian and bicycle infrastructure projects throughout the region. You can find out more on page 20. We have a fan of the bike ped list. Glad to see it. Yeah, you can find out more on that on page 20 and then the full list on page 42. Enthusiasm, always good, appreciate it. Next, we have our school mobility and safe routes to school program. You can find out more about this program, the ins and outs, on page 21 of the document, and then the full list begins on page 44. And lastly, but certainly not least, we have our regional transit capital projects. These are our key priorities for transit throughout the region. You can find out more on this project list on 23, and then the full list starting on page 53. So I know that was very rapid fire, but basically we've brought this to all of the other advisory committees leading up to today and collected feedback from our technical partners, our partners from the public, and we're incorporating that feedback into the preview document, which you have in front of you. And once that feedback is incorporated, we'll bring back the final draft version for adoption at your July 9th meeting. And that I'd be happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Question from the board? See none, I want to say thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, that concludes the presentation portion of the meeting. We'll now move on to public comments and general items of nature.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, we still have one presentation on the MTP.
Sorry, I missed it. Okay.
I won't be going nearly as long as last month, so it will be
Yeah.
shorter. Good morning, everyone. So following the theme of our near-term planning with the TIP, our midterm planning with the prioritized project list, I'll be providing an update on our long-term planning for our 2050 MTP update. There is additional information about the ongoing status of the MTP and our most recent public engagement reports included in your agenda packets under section 4. Kind of highlighting where we are and what's going on, the coordination with our transportation partners throughout the region and your staff on the development of the planning consistency lists within the 2050 MTP is going well. We're expecting their feedback by the end of this week so we can complete the development of that section of the plan, which is really exciting news. Another item that we have going on are the needs dashboard development. So while the planning consistency lists are for projects that are going to be funded outside of the MPO process, either through toll funds, local funds, discretionary grants, developer agreements, any of those other sources, the needs dashboard that we're going to be publishing soon focuses on the projects that are eligible for MPO funding, so we can see what the results of the needs assessment are to date. And then following up on our funding policy discussion from your last meeting, we have received a few questions about the different types of funding available within the region for transportation projects and how they all fit into the MTP. So today we're going to briefly highlight those 4 primary types of funding that will be represented within the 2050 plan and what those dollar values look like on an annual basis, and then explain where our funding scenarios fit into the plan as well. So there are 4 primary types of funding, or buckets of funding, if you'll go with the metaphor with me this morning, that are represented within the 2050 MTP. The first are federal and state funds that are restricted to just the state highway system. This represents just over $1 billion in funding over the next 20 years. And while these are restricted to the state highway system projects, there are some significant roadway improvements that are eligible for these types of funds. And that includes roadway widenings, new corridor development, or complete streets type projects, operational solutions, bicycle and pedestrian projects, and other types of improvements, but again, restricted to the state highway system. Then we have a smaller amount of funds, which sounds funny to say when I say it represents $184 million over the next 20 years. But these are for other roads, for other priorities that are determined through collaboration between FDOT and the state and the MPO. Then this navy blue bucket represents the federal funds for MPO priorities. This represents $683 million over the next 20 years, with project eligibility for these funds determined by the MPO funding policy, which is voted upon by you all here on our board. Then our last bucket represents the federal funds for transit. This represents $383 million over the next 20 years. And these are formula funds that are allocated to the Regional Transit Authority based on their annual reporting and performance. So while these numbers seem astronomical looking at a 20-year scale, when we take that down to annual estimates, we see that the federal and state funds for the state highway system is limited to $54 million per year for the state highway system improvements. We have $9.2 million for those other roadway priorities, $34 million for federal funds for the MPO priorities, and then $19 million per year for the Central Florida Regional Transportation Authority. Now, all of these funds will be represented in the 2050 MTP, but MetroPlan Orlando only has funding authority over the navy blue bucket of those federal funds. Now, when I say funding authority, this is a direct nod to our funding policy, which informs us on how those MPO TMA funds within this particular bucket are to be spent. This particular funding policy was established in the 2045 MTP, and that's what we've been implementing over the past 5 years, and what you saw included in both Jason and Slade's presentation this morning. The funding policy represents basically even smaller buckets, sub-buckets, that are used to subdivide that MPO funding to implement transportation improvement projects within our region. Now, as we work together to develop an updated funding policy for the 2050 plan and review the various scenarios of what the policy could look like. And that new policy, whatever it turns out to be at the end of this process, will continue to only apply to the single bucket of funding. Now, last meeting, we had a detailed discussion about what changes we should be making to that funding policy based on what we learned both from the MTP Summit and those illustrative funding scenarios. And our team has been working diligently to craft the next draft of funding scenarios based on the feedback that we heard from you and our advisory committees. I can give you a quick preview of what to expect at your next meeting. So the high injury network countermeasures modal category had a bit of a name change. It was formerly the safety projects category. We wanted to make sure that the intention of what that category is exploring and what it would accomplish was made more clear just from its name. And we will be evaluating options that either include or exclude this particular category moving forward. The complete streets and urban corridor improvements category also had a minor name change for clarity. And our TISMO category will be evaluating options that either include or exclude a sub-bucket under that modal category for intelligent transportation systems projects, which are already eligible improvements under that category. We'd be looking at whether it had dedicated funds specifically for those types of projects. Our active transportation category will be including a school mobility program sub-bucket or boxed fund for all funding scenarios moving forward, because we did receive wide consensus from all of our advisory committees and our board members on that topic. So we will be exploring two potential options for the rest of the funds under that modal category to either allow them to be used broadly for all active transportation improvements or restricting them to regional trail projects only. In our transit capital category, that funding will be allowed for all capital improvements with no further restrictions, again, based on the conversations we've been having the last few months. And then we will be evaluating options that either include or exclude a new modal category of widening and new corridor development. Now, this particular item, it would not be drawing from those state highway system funds. This would be drawing from our blue bucket of federal MPO funding. So as I've kind of alluded to, you will receive the second draft funding scenarios as part of your agenda packets for your next meeting. And at your next meeting, we will be discussing those second draft funding scenarios and asking for your feedback so the MTP team can take those results and consolidate them down into a recommended funding scenario. So that way in early September, your second meeting after your next one, we will be talking through a preview of the 2050 MTP cost feasible plan, which will include all four of these funding buckets. We'll see the state highway system funds and all of the widening, new corridor development and other types of improvements there, as well as those other roads funds, the transit funds. But where we have the most authority in that programming item is the navy blue bucket for our NPO funding policy and seeing that implemented for our transportation projects. So with those key milestones in mind, we are still on track to adopt the 2050 MTP this December. And with that, I thank you for your time. Does anyone have any questions?
Any question from the board? Thank you.
Actually, Mr.
Sorry.
Chair. Thank you.
Mr.
I appreciate that. I've heard a lot of talk today about long-range planning, and once again, our state and federal partners are taking different turns when it comes to financing everything. We've heard conversations about taking TDT dollars. We've heard conversations about the statewide, about changing our property tax and creating more exemptions. And then we look at fast forward to the federal government. We're going through DOGE. We're cutting employees. We're cutting departments. All of these things are happening. And I guess I'm just trying to, all the things that we've talked about, the NARC discussions where it's got all this great stuff, we're all living on historical norms, right? That's what we're balancing and creating all of our funding ideas and models off of is the history of federal and state funding over probably a 30-year period. Are we looking at the option? I mean, I know that sounds crazy, but are we planning for the other option where there, you know what I mean, where there's less funding and there's less opportunities?
I don't think it's crazy. It's we don't have a budget squared away at a county yet.
And so I because I think it's great that we're still planning ahead and planning for normality. But I just wonder, as an agency, do we need to have a conversation about what that looks if property taxes get taken from local governments and our ability to help with transit or transportation? Or I just wondered if that's a conversation worth having. So just a thought.
Mr. Good? Can you turn your microphone on, please? Yeah, thank you.
Is that the little ear?
It's on. It's on.
All right, it's on. It's a great question. I mean, we are in very uncharted waters in a lot of these things. My feeling is that we represent Central Florida, not Tallahassee, not Washington, DC. We may have political opinions on that. And I don't know sure what the mechanism is, but I think that both the Republicans and the Democrats that sit here, or at least are running our community, have 90% the same goals for our community. But might have very different insights and very different relationships onto what's going on. I don't know how to put it all together. But sitting there and screaming what's happening on the other side, which I don't agree with all of the Republican side of it, by the way. I don't get the property tax thing. I don't get it, but maybe I'm going to try to understand it. But I guess I'm not answering the answer to my answer is yes, we should be trying to see around corners. But I don't know.
The other thing I'd like to add to that is, Mr. Good, I think you hit the nail on the head in a couple of different areas. As a region, I think we all work very well together, no matter what affiliation you think you are or might be. Until things actually come down and say, this is the way we're going to do it, we have to be very fluid. In the beginning of the meeting, we talked about that briefly, that this is a fluid process right now until we hear from the agencies on how they're going to be doing things. It's very difficult for us to play the what if game. So we need to be ready, and I think we are. We're all very curious, and we're going to see what happens as the calendar moves on. Commissioner Reby?
I wanted to appreciate the comments from the commissioner, and also we actually had the Assistant U.S. Secretary, DOT Secretary at the conference, Connor Terosian. So he was representing Secretary Duffy, who used to be a congressman and understands local issues, which is kind of nice to hear that. And I think he was from a rural area. But the intention we heard is that they intend to keep funding things. Yes, they're going to be tight, and we've heard about FDOT getting some of their funding cut on the dock stamps, but I don't think people are abandoning it. We just don't know at what level we're going to keep getting or how much support we're going to get. And I think, and what you guys have done in Seminole County with kind of creating that balance with DOT and doing projects ahead of time, like we heard from Commissioner Zimbauer recently, it's great. Probably going to be the future of what happens, but I hear you.
Any other questions on this side?
I would love to hear what Mr. Hutman thinks and just kind of understanding. Yeah, just, well, that's only because, you know, I think for as much experience as we all have here in our own jurisdictions and in leadership, having sort of that 1,000-foot view is so critical. And I know that every time I sit here and look at the price tags on some of these things, I continue to think it's crazy that it has been my entire life that we are still working on I-4 and spending the top dollars on that. And yet what you see is the continued shrink on what I feel like is the most bang for your buck, which is alternate forms of transportation. That's my 2 cents, that we need to look for low-hanging fruit and continue to look for alternatives for transportation to move lots of people around, because we're going to have lots of people. But I would love to hear sort of the expertise.
I will tell you that sometimes it takes decades to get a project done. In fact, we just finished a project in the Oviedo area that literally took a little more than 35 years.
Listen, I think the Adeline mentality is infinite, and that's the problem.
Mr. Hutman, you have anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, just to add that the information that we use for Taylor's work comes to us from the state through the Revenue Estimating Conference. And the funds that we use to make these projections are formula-based funds. So that's the best information that we have to go by. But as Chairman Delary made the comments in his opening remarks regarding the Transportation Improvement Program, there is some uncertainty on that. And even though we don't know yet, our schedule for adoption has not changed. We haven't gotten any variance on that, and we won't get any variance on that. So what you see next month could be a little bit different. And I suspect that the difference may come from however they land on the use of the dock stamps and the trip funding. If you remember when you heard a presentation on the work program in February, I believe, DOT was using some of our SU dollars to leverage trip funds for the East State Road 50 project and for the Pleasant Hill John Young Parkway intersection project, as well as I believe the roundabouts on 434. So if that takes a big hit, then that's going to have an impact. But, you know, that's one of the reasons that we live with those peaks and valleys. And, you know, it's why we update certain documents annually, and we update our long-range plan, you know, every 5 years. So.
Any other comments or concerns before we move on? Thank you. Okay. We'll now move on to public comments on a general nature. Obviously, there's two ways, one in person, one via digital. Do we have any written requests or raise hands, Lisa?
We have not received any written requests, and I'm checking to see if we have any online. I don't see any online just yet.
Thank you.
Yes, we do.
All right.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
thanks, jump in.
Hello,
Can you give us your name and
Hello?
address for the record?
Joanne Canales, 324 Claremont Avenue, Lake Mary, Florida, 32746. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. And you'll have 2 minutes starting now.
Yes. Yeah, we still do need the 24 hours bus and train service, including holidays, weekends, and nighttime. And forget about those forget about Ron DeSantis and Donald Trump stuff, because they told us they're taking the Seminole County thing away from us, which is a transportation, which I don't like. We need to keep the bus, and you need to keep the bus in Seminole County, including Sanford, Lake Mary, and places like that, Evado and Longwood, every Seminole County, along with Orange and Osceola County, please. Do not take that away. Okay? And because I say we need a mass transit, and that's it. But we can still have the micro, but we can still keep the bus and train, we keep buses here, right here in Seminole County too, please. Thank you. And I'm still going to go ahead and go to the meeting on the 31st. Okay?
All right, thank you, Joanne.
You're welcome.
Any other requests online? Raise your hands.
I don't see any more.
Okay, seeing no other individuals online, we're going to leave public comments and go to board comments. We'll start on the right-hand side of the room. Anyone in the board? Left-hand side of the room, anyone? Okay, now move on to the next meeting. Will be July 9th. We'll be in this meeting room. This meeting is now adjourned.
Have a wonderful day, everybody.
Thank you.
You too.